what we've already heard. We ask now for your grace. Supernatural grace. Bountiful grace to be poured upon us. We pray that your word that June shared and I share will find a rest in our hearts and souls and spirit. And may you be honoured and glorified. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Luke chapter 5. When they ever decided to have a series on transformation, well, I thought there'd be so many speakers speaking on transformation that it created a little, not a problem in me, but a little question now. What can so many people say about transformation without repeating? Correct. So I'm the kind of guy that I like to find and solve a thing, So what will I do? What will I talk about? Now I sat down and I thought, I've been saved from when I was 15. And I can't remember preaching on transformation. I must have, in one shape or form, but not as an individual subject. So, what will I do? Now, we heard a great teaching ministry with Dr. Harvey. I enjoyed it immensely. Very intense, very deep, very leading. I said, but I don't want to be like that. I want to say something that will help people. I didn't want to get involved in a big spiel of stuff, right? I wanted to think, now, can I do something that will be down to earth, simple, easy? Wow, that's too hard as well, isn't it? So, I suddenly thought of Peter. Now, Peter was what we call a character. Okay? He was unique. And he was himself. And whether liked it or not, he was himself. Take me as I am, or forget about it. Well, I want to share this morning something that it's more than teaching or preaching or talking or explaining. I want to share something with you that you can take home with you. And it's like, put it by the side of the fire, and think about it. Because Peter is a great example of a transformed person. He was a fisherman for years, and he became an apostle for years. And to become an apostle, he had to give up fishing. Now I'm reading from Luke chapter 5, and I'm reading from verse 1. So it was, as the multitude pressed about him to hear the word of God, that he stood by the lake of Gennesaret, and saw two boats standing by the lake, but the fishermen had gone out from them, and were washing their nets. Then he got into one of the boats, which was Simon's, and asked him to put out a little from the land. And he sat down and taught the multitudes from the boat. When he had stopped speaking, he said to Simon, "Launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a catch." But Simon answered and said to him, "Master, we have toiled all night and caught nothing. Nevertheless, at your word, I will let down the net." And when they had done this, they caught a great number of fish, and their net was breaking. So they signaled to their partners in the other boat to come and help them, and they came and filled both the boats, that they began to sink. When Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, not his feet now, his knees. "Depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord." For he and all who were with him were astonished at the catch of fish which they had taken. And so also were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon. And Jesus said to Simon, "Do not be afraid. From now on you will catch men." So when they had brought their boats to land, they forsook all and followed him. Peter is well known in Christian circles. Peter is one of those men that when you read the New Testament, you get attracted to. Shortly after my conversion, I got to know Peter because I loved his letters. And Peter is a good example of a life that is transformed. And that's what I wanted to emphasize. I didn't want to speak to a group, I wanted to be to individuals. Because every one of you, every one of us has got a place in the kingdom, in the church, which is ours. You cannot be replaced. The Lord needs you. Now, Peter was a fisherman, and that's where Jesus found him. Now, previously, Jesus has already been to the sea and with the disciples at the sea, but they still went on fishing while Jesus went on ministering. But Jesus has come back again to the same place, and he's come back to meet these men, especially Peter. Now, I want you to notice in this event, there were boats. Obvious, isn't it? I want to make this message obvious. I don't want you to go home and have to think hard. I want you to, it's obvious. And it's obvious that Jesus wants to transform us. And it says here that there is a location of the boat. Now there are various translations. First of all, verse 2 says it's on the edge of the water, or the edge of the lake, by the lake or on the land. The boat, there was nothing in it. Peter had gone out, there was nothing in the boat. Then it says the boat was a little way out. Jesus said to Peter, when Jesus had finished ministering to the people, launch out, put out a little, thrust out, and then go out into the deep water. That's when Jesus had finished preaching and he's told Peter, go out into the deep water, launch out into the deep. Now the boat was in the right location on each occasion for each purpose. Now Jesus was in the process and purpose of transferring Peter. Transformation, Peter is challenged. Peter is faced up by Christ, by Jesus. And there was going to be a work of transformation. Now, transformation does not work in one operation. Transformation is an ongoing lifestyle. And transformation had a starting and a going and a continuing. It started on the edge of the lake here. It goes out a little bit into the lake and it continues into deep water. And that is just like a Christian in life experience. We start at the edge of the water, we go forward a little way out, and we continue to launch and put into deep water. You see, we should never be in a place where we're satisfied, where we're sitting comfortable. Peter had done this all his life, and he could have sat there and fished for the rest of his days. But Jesus had a different plan. And when Jesus disturbs and interrupts our plans, it's for a purpose. Now, Jesus is in Peter's boat. Now, this is where the real thing starts to happen. Jesus got into the boat, which was Simon's, not Peter. He's not called Peter now yet. His name is Simon. And asked him to put out a little from the land. Just a little from the land. Now picture this thing. Peter and Jesus, or Jesus and Peter, are sitting in the same place, in the same boat. They're sitting in shallow water in the boat. When Jesus had finished speaking to the crowd, he said to Peter, man to man, nobody else is involved. You see, there comes a place in our lives when we have to make up our minds that nobody else is involved in how we respond individually to the push of Jesus to go into the water. Launch out into the deep. Jesus, first of all, was in the edge, in the shallow water, then the deep water. And Jesus spoke and communicated with the people. For everybody to hear, there's a good crowd, and Jesus got into the boat where he could be away from the people, but his voice would carry so that all could hear. When we are being transformed, because this is what was happening to Peter, he was going through a process of transformation. When we are transformed, it's so that we can. Do you get me? I don't need to say anything about that, you know what I mean? So that you're giving out, you're throwing over the edge. And Jesus spoke and communicated with the people on first, and all of them could hear him. But Peter was sitting in the boat, doing nothing, only listen. There are times when we have got to sit in the boat with Jesus and listen. Jesus was in the boat with Peter. Do you know why? because he was beginning the work of training and transforming Peter for his future fulfilled ministry, which was of an apostle. Okay? Now, Peter did not become an apostle just because somebody said he was an apostle, or because somebody decided to anoint him as apostle, or because Peter said, I want to be an apostle. That kind of apostolic stuff is right. You get the message. I won't say it. Now, when Jesus had finished speaking to the crowd, he said to Peter, Peter's sitting in the boat, comfortable. It's his boat. He's been in it for years. Jesus is speaking to the crowd, and Jesus turns around and he says, Peter, I want you to listen. Peter, I am here with you. I don't know what kind of conversation went on between the both of them, but there was a beginning, and this is the important thing, there was a beginning of personal relationship with each other. Okay, Jesus wants to be with us. Do we want to be with him? Jesus wants us to be something. Do we want it to be what he wants us to be? Do you hear what I'm saying? Jesus is not pushing Peter out into something that he has not been prepared for, that he has not been transformed into. You just can't take on a title. You just can't take on a something and say that you're that. No. If Peter and Jesus were sitting in the boat and Peter was listening to what Jesus was going to say to him, he would understand right away. You see, the person and presence of Jesus was in the shallow water, right? But he wanted Peter to go into deep water. But there is a process. Jesus never thrown anybody into deep water without, do you understand me? You know something? I can enjoy myself with Jesus in shallow water. And I can enjoy myself with Jesus in deep water. It's my choice whether I'm in the shallow or the deep. But I can enjoy both. Don't feel condemned if you're still in shallow water, because Jesus is there with you. And Jesus wants to bless you in shallow water. You see, when you go to the sea, I have two grandsons, and when June and I take them to the beach, you see, we play in the shallow water, right? Okay? I maybe go a little bit further, but I'm not going any further than a little bit further up to my knees, because I've got shorts on, I've got a t-shirt on. But then, because I'm enjoying myself, I dive in. Are you with me? There comes a point where in transformation you have to learn and be careful in shallow water to the ankles or to the knees. Now Simon Peter's response. Now this is where I want to get to. You see, how do you respond? How do we respond? Simon Peter's response. But Simon answered and said to him, first of all, when Jesus had finished speaking to the crowd, he said to Peter, man to man, eye to eye, launch out into the deep. That's not Peter. Peter's done his life then. Launch out into the deep. I'm at home in the deep. Lovely. And I know what to do with him in the deep. And I know where to cast the nets. So that's no problem. But Jesus said to him, Simon, launch out into the deep. Verse 5 says, but Simon answered, when you get a butt, when you get a butt, I'm not talking to the end of a fag now, when you get a butt, you know that kind of experience. I'll do it, but you see, but what does but mean? When Peter saw it, Simon Peter answered and said unto him, Master, we have toiled all night and caught nothing. Nevertheless, at your word, I will let down the net. Now that's a typical fisherman's responding. Well, I've been out there all night. Not on my own, with the others. And we've been working all night and we caught nothing. And now he's asking me to go out on my own into deep water in a boat and throw the net out for a catch. All this is a personal relationship. It's a personal face-to-face. It's Peter learning transforming grace. It's Peter learning he has to listen to what Jesus is saying, and he says, I've toiled all night. But before he said toiled all night, he said, Master. Who's your master? The one who teaches you? Schoolmaster? Headmaster? The one who teaches? The one who instructs? The one who leads? The one who gives authority? Master, we have toiled all night and caught nothing. Nevertheless, that's an important word there. Nevertheless, even though I feel like I feel, even now I've been out there all night, nevertheless, at your word, not his word, not his mind and decision, at the word of the Master, I will let down the net. When Peter called Jesus Master, he was saying, Lord, you're the captain of the ship. That's what it literally means. You're the captain of the ship. It's not my boat anymore. I've given it to you to use. And Simon answered and said, Master, we have toiled all night, caught none. Nevertheless, at your word, I will let down the net. I want you to notice something now. This is interaction. This is you meeting me, and I'm meeting you, and we're having a conversation. And in time, the conversation gets more friendly, more personal, more related to. You know what I mean? We're not just having a chat and clearing off. We're forming a friendship. We are recognizing personality. We are, depending on who you are, what you are, you're recognizing authority. your recognizing position. You don't communicate with your father-in-law. You've got to be careful, don't you? When you meet him first. But he can be the best friend later on when you get to know each other, right? And this is what was happening with Peter. Peter, I want you to notice something. We, you, I, in that order, in that verse. Simon said to him, Master, we, not just me, but we have toiled all night. Phew. Hard work, hard graft. Nevertheless, at your word is you. Right? You, Lord. You have you. Right? And then I. We, you, and I relationship in that verse is very important. We, Peter is saying, is you, Jesus, and I. Right? But you're talking about other friends outside. Oh, by the way, have you noticed that I said that Jesus was on the boat, in the boat? Right? And he's the master of the boat. He's the captain. He's not on the land. He's not walking on water. He's sitting where Peter is comfortable. All right? This is not about discussion. Jesus is working the transformation grace into Peter's life. You're a fisherman, but you're not going to stay a fisherman. And Peter was beginning to relate, I believe. You see, when I first met you, my relationship now is different to then. But still the same people. When you and I in our Christian experience is relating to Jesus, related to Jesus, who's following who? Who's being transformed? Who's walking in obedience? Who's listening to his word? You see, Peter sat in that boat and he heard a sermon preached to the people. Now he's on his own and he's hearing the love, the care, the compassion, the desire of the heart of Jesus for Simon Peter is, I want to make you something in the future. When Simon Peter saw this, they let down, they went out, they cast their nets, they drew fish. And verse 8 says, when Peter saw this, he fell down at the knees of Jesus and said, Master, what does it say?
I'm a sinful man.
Huh?
I'm a sinful man.
No, verse 8.
Verse 8. Depart.
Oh,
Depart from me.
depart from me. I'm putting it in a more realistic way, leave my boat. Jesus, leave my boat. Why?
He was not feel worthy.
Right, for I am a sinful man. Wow. You enjoying this? For I am a sinful man. You see, Peter didn't feel that before Jesus got on the boat. Peter didn't feel a sinful man. Well, at least we're not saying here, right? It's the transforming presence of Jesus. He's always transforming us. Transformation to me, is not my work. It's the grace of God in my life, the reality of Jesus in my life that changes me. I don't change because I decide to. You know what I mean? I'm taking it a bit deeper. I'm taking it a bit more realistic. Jesus wants us to be. Peter, you're going to be a fisherman. No. Peter, you're going to be a servant. And that servanthood is apostolic. Peter must have felt terrible. Do we sometimes feel like Peter? A failure? Fruitless? Useless? Giving up? Hold on. Luke. Jesus is still in your boat. It wasn't Jesus' boat. It was Peter's boat. That's Peter's place, you know. And your place in the body of Christ and in your Christian walk, it's more important that you're with Jesus. You are related. You are there. Jesus was fishing with them and they caught a great big catch. But Jesus is still in the boat. From the shore into shallow water into deep water. Jesus will take you places in transformation you've never been before. Jesus will take you into situations that you never thought you would be. Jesus will take you places where you will stand before men and have to identify yourself as what? A follower. Because it says here, I haven't preached for a long time. Verse 11. Now, I've been talking about Peter as an individual. So they pulled their boats up on shore. Who's they? They are the friends, brother and friend, or Peter and friends, who went out to catch fish with them in their own boats. And they came over to help Peter because his boat was full. Right? So they pulled their boats up on shore. Hey, that's Peter and his friends. But we're only talking about Peter. Jesus was only dealing with Peter. Jesus was sitting in Peter's boat talking to a multitude. He wasn't talking, the others may have heard him, but he was talking to the multitude. And, oh dear. So they got involved. How did they get involved? By unity. Three or four of them went out in their boats to help Peter. Do you notice that Jesus didn't do any work? We have to activate ourselves into his transformating grace. And when Peter, it says, they pulled their boats on shore, left everything, and followed Peter. Followed Jesus. Are you hearing me, friends? Our Christian life is not following anybody, only Jesus. But in our following Jesus, we meet people of the same faith, and we find that they've got something I need, I've got something they need, and there is that transformating grace. I don't know if that's the English word, not transformating grace that is changing us. You see, when they pull their boats ashore, the days ahead of them, their loose association with Jesus, remember that they met him before? Jesus had said, I'll make you fishers of men. Jesus has come back again to keep his word. That's what Jesus does, you see. Whatever Jesus has told you to do. Whatever Jesus has called you to be, if you come under transforming grace, that's what you'll become. But if you argue and fight and dig your heels in, you ain't moving anywhere. Right? You can sing your heart out on Sundays if you like, but if you're not moving with the Lord, or it's easy to sing. It's hard to listen to me. Right? The days ahead of their loose association with Jesus will now become a knit fellowship. The 4 or 5 men who had lived their lifetime on the boats, fishing for fish, will become fishers of men. And Peter will begin his lifestyle, his life, the rest of his life, being transformed by the grace of God, being changed from the old Peter to the new Peter. Changed from the old Simon to the new Peter, because Jesus said, Peter, your name is Peter, and you're the rock. Alright? Jesus does not leave us weak. Jesus doesn't leave us struggling. Jesus doesn't leave us as babies. In the church, spoiled. At home, spoiled. He makes us into strong personalities. I didn't say noisy like me, but strong personality. People of grace. People of transformation. People that have been changed. If any man be in Christ, he is a new creation. Where's the old? Gone.
Passed away.
Passed away. Now, I'm going to finish here. In Luke 22:61, I'm jumping through the life of Peter. And it says, when Jesus was being tried, Peter was following him, and the cock has crowed 3 times. And the Lord turned and looked at Peter. Verse 61. Okay? The Lord turned and looked at Peter. The Lord turned and looked at Peter. Peter has just denied the Lord 3 times. Peter's just let the Lord down. Peter's just put his big foot in it again. Couldn't control his mouth, only to deny. You're surely one of them, old man. He's so tough he was even afraid of a young girl. The Lord turned and looked at Peter. I asked Jim this last night. The Lord turned and looked at Peter. How do we know that? How do you know that? Well, Peter must have been looking at him. But then who's wrote this gospel? Luke. How did Luke know? Because Peter told him. Think about it. Jesus turned to look and looked at Peter, fixing his gaze on Peter and looking with steadfast attention, looking in that there was a deep meaning in the look. The look, you know what I mean? Sometimes when June and I may have a little fallout, the look on the face is enough. Shut up then. Can't win. You know what I mean? And Jesus was looking at Peter. There was a deep meaning in that look. That look was a sermon in itself which Peter never forgot. Because Peter told him, look, thank you. John 21:15. We've come through 3.5 years of discipline with Peter and the Lord. Now you can follow Peter's life story in the book yourself. You get those situations where thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. It wasn't Peter. That was the rock. You can look into that and see how his whole life was transformed. Jesus said to Simon Peter, do you love me more than these? Feed my sheep. Do you love me? Do you love me more than these? Do you love me more than these? Feed my sheep. See, Peter had denied the Lord 3 times. It's amazing, you know, the Bible is an amazing book, you know, because when Peter denied the Lord 3 times, Jesus speaks to Peter 3 times, do you love me? Now I know there's different emphasis on that, do you love me? But Jesus instructs and equips Peter feed my lambs. My sense of humour coming right out. Better be careful. Feed my lambs. Tend my sheep. Feed my sheep. That's different to fishing. In fact, as far apart as you can make it. You see, that's what transformation does. It takes you from there to there. And there is not where the Lord wants you, that's where He meets you. There is where He wants you. From fishing to feeding the people of God, the sheep, my sheep. And when Jesus says my sheep, it's a very, very personal, precious expression of the Lord. My sheep hear my voice and they follow me. Well, Peter, you follow me and feed my sheep. And I want to encourage you all this morning, all 5, 6, 7 minutes, is this. Get involved with Jesus. Now, right? I've always done this in my ministry. I've always said things that people had to... Just don't go... It's gone out of my head now, you see. That's the way I am. Yeah, right. Feed my lambs, tend my sheep, and feed my sheep. Right? So Peter became an apostle to the church. Right? He didn't become an apostle to the world. He became an apostle to the church. He became a fisherman, fishing for fish, to ministering apostolic authority to the church. You see, friends, God doesn't want you to stay in the shallow water. He wants you to move into the deeper water. He wants you to go into the waters you can't cross over. And at the same time, He wants to develop you so that your ministry, your service, your calling is transforming you and transforming others who hear and listen and who will come to you and say to you, brother, sister, I need help. And you are the Lord's instrument in whatever function, position, ministry. Hey, I've got fed up with titles, I'll be honest with you. I'm totally fed up with. I want to say something here now, right? When Paul's writing his letter, he never once says, I am the Apostle Paul. Does he? What does he say? No. Paul, an apostle of Jesus Christ to the church. He never says the Apostle Paul in the church. Now I'm coming to that. I'm like that, you see. I've always been known for that. I always stir trouble up and ask awkward questions and make awkward statements and get people to, But listen, friends, transformation is a lifestyle, right? Transformation is how we behave, how we live, how we obey, how we follow Jesus. I couldn't care less about man's opinion. I'll be honest with you, I don't care what people think of me. And that's, you know what I mean, it's more important for me to be with Jesus and to have His agreement, to have His word, and to have His calling, and to have His assurance. Listen again. Jesus said to Simon Peter, do you love me more than these? What were the these? Sheep. No? Fish. No, the word sheep, sorry. I'm going back to another one. Right. Anyway, the Lord bless the word to your hearts this morning. Amen.
Anybody else would like to say? Put the God. I was just thinking then, because I never saw Jesus stand in the boat with them. I always thought.
There's a controversy over that one.
Is that right?
Did Jesus stand in the boat on His own?
Oh, I did. But you could never told Peter to go and shout them. He obviously stayed in the boat.
Yes. In one of the commentaries I have a few on this thing, he says Jesus went fishing with them. I meant to say that. But that's true. Jesus went fishing with Peter.
Because as soon as they pulled in the fish, it says if Peter fell straight away, and then they came to land. So if Jesus was back on land, it could have fell at his feet, type thing. That must have been a rule. Because then it's like every step Jesus tells us to take, He stays with us. It's a transformation. He is with us through the whole process. And even at that point, for Peter, it wasn't comfortable. For He says, "Depart from me, for I am a sinful man."
I think in the previous time, where Jesus met the disciples, they were fishing. Right? And later on they were fishing again, and He was on the land. But you see, can you picture the scene? This is what I believe, right? I believe that Jesus because Peter still had to learn stuff, right? And when Jesus went out with Peter to fish, right? If you read some translation, read your nets, right? Some say your net, others say your nets. Now, if it's nets, did Jesus pick up one of the nets and throw it away? I think he did. Because he went fishing with Peter. It doesn't say he went in the boat to fish with Peter. For Peter to fish. I believe there was that thing, you know. Because Jesus always put himself on people's level, people's situation. Anyway.
That's good. Because then I was saying to you, you know the way he says that Peter sat in the boat and listened to him?
Yes, yeah.
You know, and then after that, because whatever Peter heard, it made him prepared to obey. You know, when I was saying, you know the way on the road to Emmaus, like after Jesus went and he said, did not our hearts burn within us? But we heard him speak, you know. And it being in that close contact, the multitudes were on the land, but Peter was sitting there, like right beside him. You know, so something must have burned in him. You know, whatever.
Well, he's going through the transformation. He's going through the transformation from a fisherman to a shepherd or apostle, right? And all these little things are there, you know. I was amazed when I looked at this again, you know, and realised, you know, what was really happening, you know. Sometimes we just read what it says, but looking at the meaning of the word is very important, like, you know, because you get different meanings. Okay?
Yes, amen. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry I'm rusty.
Do I just pray and dismiss this? Do I pray? Dismiss.
Amen. Let's stand together. You will hold hands?
Yeah.
Hallelujah. Let's just worship him for a few moments. Hallelujah. Jesus, you are Lord. You are Lord. Hallelujah. Glory, 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 glory. Father, we thank you today. Hallelujah. That we have heard that Jesus in the crowd was touched by faith. He moved in healing power. Help us, Lord, to push through and touch you. The signs and wonders and miracles and wonderful things will happen to us individually and as a group of church. Lord, we pray that as we have looked at Peter in relationship with Jesus, help us to learn, increase our knowledge, deepen our spiritual understanding of what it really means to go fishing with Jesus in the boat. I pray this morning that the anointing of the Spirit will rest upon each one of my friends here, brothers and sisters. A new anointing that will bring reformation, that will pull down walls and build new ones, still stormy water and bring calm and quietness. Let there be an increase in our understanding and revelation of Jesus in our lives. And Lord, I pray that each gift that you've given to us, Now we shall have a new anointing, a fresh revelation, a reawakening, a stirring. Hallelujah. May the youngest convert in this group, the youngest Lord, may there be a new anointing, a fresh anointing flowing through their lives. May they go through a period where there is big steps. Yes, Lord, big steps of transformation. Hallelujah. Holy Shiga. Lord, use us to bring honor to your name in the body of your church, in the neighborhood in which we live. Let there be dynamic in our lives. Let there be authority and grace. Oh, not to be afraid. Not to be afraid of what's happening tomorrow. Not to be worried about next week. Not to be thinking, Lord, that things are beyond. Lord, they're not. But your grace is sufficient. So for the rest of the day, let your name be praised. Bless our fellowship. Bless our as a church. Bless the leadership, the pastors, the teams. We pray, Father, for demonstrations of glory and grace. Hallelujah. Let there come new ministries, new giftings upon your people. Let there come revelation, understanding. Let this fellowship become mighty in the kingdom. Mighty in the kingdom. Hallelujah. In the town in which it's located. Hallelujah. Not from this place where there go forth light. May they go forth light of your glory. Hallelujah. And we pray, Father, that it will continue to expand and grow in the knowledge of the kingdom and the knowledge of God. And that souls will be saved, bodies healed, your people filled with love, and the anointing of the Spirit. Oh, may there be great things, great things.